This land acknowledgement calls us to commit to continuing to learn how to be better stewards of the land we inhabit. We recognize that every member of the Santa Rosa Junior College community has benefited and continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land since the institution's founding in 1918. Consistent with our values of community and diversity, we have a responsibility to acknowledge and make visible the college's relationship to Native peoples. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous sovereignty and will work to hold Santa Rosa Junior College more accountable to the needs of American Indian and Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge that we gather at Santa Rosa Junior College on the territorial traditional land of the Pomo people in Santa Rosa and the Coast Miwok people in Petaluma, past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout the generations. Thank you.
This fall, I hope we do something we haven't done in a while. I hope that we embrace change and build bridges where walls once stood. The Academic and Classified Senate are committed to working together to build those bridges. My goal as Academic Senate President is to make the Senate a welcoming, supportive, and diverse place that celebrates people, ideas, and projects from multiple viewpoints and perspectives. In partnership with the Academic Senate Executive Committee, we're planning activities that both support effective discussion as well as respect differences of opinion through respectful interactions and practices. When I joined SRJC in the fall of 2017, I was struck then, as I am now, at the ways in which we both create and resist community building. So, my invitation to you all this year is to embrace change. Change is the only constant in the universe. Change is an opportunity for growth. Change is the way we meet the challenges of manifesting an equitable, robust, and caring 21st century educational institution. SRJC has been serving this community since 1918. Let's build now so we can continue to serve through 2118.
Good morning, college community. My name is Linda J., and I have the honor of representing classified professionals as the Classified Senate President. Good morning. The Classified Senate has been active in shared governance over the past year. We have served on several committees, being part of the conversation to shift the culture of our community and make change to benefit everyone, including the creation of our own DEIAA pillar as one of our standing committees, continuing our work in these efforts. We participate as a tri-chair on the College Council, bringing forth the voice of classified as part of our shared governance responsibilities. We collaborate with SEIU on hiring committees, ensuring we have input on the hiring process for management and classified professionals. We support the Caring Campus Initiative, which makes not only our students feel more connected and welcomed at the college, but also our faculty and classified professionals. This year, we will be introducing the Caring Campus Sustainability Guidebook. This newly published document outlines practices, strategies, and challenges, including addressing the roles of classified and administration in the success of our students. We are also introducing a resource guide with information about our departments and programs to provide additional wayfinding information. All of our efforts are based on the California Community College Classified Senate 9+1, allowing us to participate in the formulation and development of policies and procedures that have a significant impact on classified professionals. As classified professionals, we are all unsung heroes of our college community. We work tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure our students receive exceptional education. The Classified Senate acknowledges and celebrates our contributions, from maintaining our beautiful campuses and buildings to providing crucial support services. We memorialize our classified professional unsung heroes on the walls of Heritage Plaza on the Santa Rosa campus, permanently highlighting our classified retirees and those that have passed while working here at JC. Please stop by the Heritage Plaza when you're on Santa Rosa campus and check out the new plaques. We will continue to hold our community events, allowing us the opportunity to recognize the efforts of our colleagues and award the amazing work we do. We will advocate for classified interests and concerns, enhance collaboration across departments, and foster a culture of inclusivity that makes our college a beacon of hope for a brighter future, creating a sense of excellency and belonging. The Classified Senate looks forward to embracing these opportunities together, enhancing our work environment and student experiences. We encourage you to get involved, sharing your ideas, and participate in our events and committees. Together, we can make a meaningful difference in the lives of our students and colleagues. Thank you.
To that end, on the faculty side, our faculty Senate conversations are always an important way in which we carry out our 10+1 purview, and this fall proves to be no less relevant. This fall, we'll bring back discussion and action items related to online special expertise. We'll take another look at the waitlist workgroup proposals, and we'll continue to consider opportunities for new faculty professional learning. New important activities this fall will include our recommendation on the forthcoming Cal-GETSI Title V changes, and that's specific to both local requirements as well as other programs and Common Course numbering. We're going to look at and discuss institutionalizing our SLO activities. We're going to finally implement guided pathways. We're going to take a, yeah. We're going to talk about hiring as far as faculty go. We're going to bring back our discussions on generative artificial intelligence. If you know me, you know that I think 17 and a half weeks is just a scotch too long of a semester. So we're going to talk about the length of our semester. So cancel your cable subscription, come to Senate this fall on the first and third Wednesdays in the Senate chambers, and we're also going to have our fall retreat on Friday, September the 6th. So, and as a Brown Act meeting, you're all invited, so please join us. All right, so with that said, next up, I have the distinct honor of welcoming my fellow sociology faculty, Dr. Sholin Shanlen Vasquez, who will introduce the Multicultural Educator of the Year award recipient. Thanks so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, John. Sociologist introducing a sociologist. I don't think that's ever happened before. I don't know. So yay, sociology. And good morning, SRJC, and happy fall semester. I'm Dr. Sholin Shanlen Vasquez, and I teach sociology at the college. This morning, I have the distinct honor, privilege, and joy of introducing my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Purnur Özbirinci, as the recipient of SRJC's Multicultural Educator Award. And show of hands if you've in any shape or form interacted with Purnur in the last few years. Look at this. I mean, this is so significant because it's truly incredible how much Purnur does for the college. Her days seem to have 72 hours, whereas mine seem to have about 6, through which I seem to be, driving my kids around for soccer practice or something. So I don't know how she does it, but I would like to start by quoting one of her colleagues who nominated her for this award, and they write, those who interact with Purnur experience her warm collegiality, professional support, and incredible kindness. She's the embodiment of the SRJC district value, where we aspire to be a healthy and resilient college grounded in kindness, innovation, collaboration, and restorative justice that identifies and removes oppressive structures, end of quote. Purnur's dedication to student success through the lens of inclusion, diversity, equity, accessibility, anti-racism, and justice permeates everything she does at the college. Her work as senator, and this list is really long, so I need to take a breath. Her work as senator, her role as SLO faculty liaison, her efforts as a member of the Courageous Leaders Steering Committee, her role as the mentor in the Teaching Fellows Program, and most recently as faculty coordinator for the new IDEAAJ initiative, Cultivating an Ecosystem of Belonging. Not done yet. Pirner serves as the co-coordinator of SRJC's Puente Learning Community and is an active member of the Lanzamiento Hispanic Serving Institution Initiative. Round of applause. Like, this is... And it's not an exhaustive list. I know I left some things out. Known as Dr. Oz to her students, Pirner is dedicated to ensuring that each of her students receives excellent academic and personal support. The rapport she has with her students, the love she pours into her work with them, the rigorous teaching materials and methods she introduces into her curriculum, and her equity-based grading techniques are truly awe-inspiring. If you heard of ungrading, it was probably from Pirner. In her Grading with Equity workshops, she courageously highlights the colonial, racist, and capitalist roots of our current teaching and grading principles that are designed to separate, reward, or punish, rather than empower, inspire, and elevate, which is probably what we want education to do. I'm proud to say that Pirner has been my co-conspirator for the last 6 years as we served as co-coordinators for the Women's History Month calendar. And we strove to bring Women's History Month programming to the college from an intersectional feminist lens that's trans-inclusionary and speaks to a wide range of women's experiences globally. And as we became co-founders of SRJC's inaugural Middle Eastern North African Association, MENA, along with some really dear, esteemed colleagues, we're a small but tight-knit group that's, I would say, very mighty. It was in that latter capacity where Pirner helped me find my voice at the college, as an immigrant, as a Muslim, as a Middle Easterner, as someone who felt like she didn't quite belong, and as someone who didn't neatly fit into pre-existing categories. I'm forever grateful for the friendship and camaraderie we were able to establish over the last few years. It improves the way I show up at the college, and this is her magic. She makes the lives of everyone around her better with her kindness and generosity. When I think about Pirner and why she does all she does, only one possible reason comes to my mind, and that's call of duty. As an immigrant from Turkey, like me, I believe she has come to this country bright-eyed, expecting to find a near-perfect society, or at least a society that aspires to be equitable and just. Despite reading the books and seeing all the movies about the US's colonial past, the genocide of Native Americans, slavery, segregation, and so much more, we did not understand how deep-seated, insidious, and structural the injustices were in the contemporary US until we experienced them firsthand. As junior college instructors, we see institutionalized racism, sexism, colorism, classism, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, ableism, and the individualistic bootstrap mentality at work every day, pushing our students down as they try to rise above against all the odds. It's not just our students that experience it. We, communities of color, immigrants, LGBTQIA folks, disabled folks, the working class, women, we all struggle with the oppressive structures. Pirner hears the call of duty to encourage us to make meaningful, radical structural change in our classrooms, in our homes, and in our society. I'm proud to call her my friend and colleague. This year's Multicultural Educator Award goes to Dr. Oz. Pirner, please come and join me.
Teşekkürler. Çok teşekkürler. Thank you. Someone has 911 in emergency dial, right? Okay, thank you. I'll do my best not to faint. This is like the biggest honor I've ever gotten, so I really am very appreciative of you. Thank you. Thank you so much for this incredible honor. I'm truly grateful and I'm proud to receive this award. I promise to work very hard every day to be worthy of it. Let me share a bit about my journey here. My dad served in the Turkish Air Force and was appointed as a foreign exchange officer at McClellan Air Force Base in Sacramento for 3 years. I was 10 years old when we arrived, and I didn't know a single word of English. I was very lucky because that little elementary school experience with had great experience with international military children like me. For the first few months, they just told me to sit in class all day. I would fall asleep, of course, and stay after school to work with a specialist. I loved my after-school teacher, Mrs. Green, who was patient and made me feel welcome. Nobody ever yanked me out of that classroom. About 3 months into my elementary school adventure, I started decoding what was being said in class. I remember one day when our teacher was explaining a science experiment where we would find the bones of a mouse from the feces of an owl. I completely understood what she was saying, and I wanted to react, so I said, "What the hell?" In a good way, of course. The whole class went wild. I was being celebrated. I thought they were like, yeah, cheering me on. But my teacher pulled me out of class, and furious, she asked why I had cursed, and all I could say was, "They say it in TV." That day I learned a lot about cultural context and communication, and that I had to wait until I was 17 to use swear words, or 18, I'm not sure. Unlike many of my students, I was never pulled out of class for being bilingual. I was always encouraged and even became an English professor. The American education system worked really well in that little military base. Dr. Jeff Duncan Andrade, professor of Latino Studies and Race and Resistance Studies at San Francisco State University, talks about how the miseducation in underserved communities is deliberate. He states, quote, "We know how to educate poor children. We have the knowledge and capacity. We lack the courage. We are cowards because the educational system in this country has the knowledge and capacity to provide a quality education to all children and chooses to act as if though it's tirelessly trying to figure out how to do that. We have systemic cowardice," unquote. I have to agree with him. That little elementary school that I went to knew exactly how to educate a student who didn't know a single word of English. My English education back when I was 10 has shaped me into who I am today. I owe that to Mrs. Green and the teachers in that little school. However, I know that this was not the experience of many of my multilingual students in this country. 26 years later, life demanded that I make a choice. I either stay to raise my baby and struggle under Erdogan's regime in Turkey, where his critics were silenced every day and many were arrested, including the president of my university and many of my father's colleagues in the military. Or I had to move away to give a better life to my baby girl. My search for a better life brought me here to the JC. Our educational journey didn't end there, of course. 2 years after we moved to the US, it was time for me to enroll my 6-year-old in the American school system. The school asked what language we spoke in the house. As a 6-year-old, she mostly spoke gibberish, but of course I had to say Turkish because I want her to know her language. They made her take a test. And when I heard that, I rushed to the school and asked them why they needed to pull her out of class to take this test. Being 6-year-old, getting pulled out of class makes you think you're in trouble. They told me not to worry since it was just a test for English language learners and the school was getting just additional funding for serving multilingual students. I didn't see it back then, but I'm now noticing that a lot of our multilingual 6-year-olds, even if they can understand English, even if they were kind of born into this country, are being taken out of class because our schools are making additional money. Money that is ripping away the confidence of some of these students who are pulled out of class is a win-win for those who seek to perpetuate the status quo. The journey doesn't end there. 6 years later, my daughter is now in middle school. We learn about the advanced Math X and English X classes. It struck me how this system is a perpetuation of segregation in the 21st century. By dividing students into advanced and not so advanced, how do you even understand that difference? We not only undermine the confidence of those placed in those lower tiers, but also ensure that these students internalize a sense of inadequacy, believing they're not good enough. What could be the purpose of this? This early loss of confidence is only made worse when they get into college, where we continue this system. We perpetuate a divide that lasts through their educational journey and seeps into their life in the workforce. And I will take this a step further and claim that this treatment of our multilingual citizens, along with all the systemic barriers we place in front of them, explains why, as a Hispanic Serving Institute, as of fall of 2022, 45% of our population identifies as Latina, while only 8% of our faculty is Latina. To me, that is one of the biggest issues we need to face. If the purpose of our institution is to educate, how will we stop perpetuating this educational divide, this educational sift? How will we ensure we serve those students who have already been traumatized in their K-12 education? As part of an educational institution, how can we support our students, or will we continue to sift them out, denying them the higher education that is often their best chance of achieving the economic safety they seek? We have a big decision to make. As part of this educational institution, are we for or against the right to education for all? I believe our answer to this question will determine our survival in the face of generative AI. I think it's time to shift our belief from everyone has a right to fail to everyone has a right to get an equitable education. As Freire said, quote, as Freire said, education is the practice of freedom and the means by which individuals deal critically and creatively with reality and discover how to participate in the transformation of the world, of their world. Only through critical consciousness, literacy, and liberatory praxis can our students obtain the critical knowledge that lifts them above the technology that we have created. Only through critical thinking can they become agents of social transformation. The education we provide must empower them to transform their communities and their lives. With generative AI in our lives, we must create highly structured, equitable environments for our students that enhance creativity and critical thinking. I believe it's time for us to reevaluate what we mean by academic excellence. If the ability to regurgitate information is the pinnacle of academic excellence, all our awards will go to ChatGPT. True academic excellence is about fostering creativity, critical consciousness, and a passion for lifelong learning. Let's continue to work together to build that future for ourselves and our students. Thank you again for this honor. And now it's my honor to invite Dr. Garcia. Oh, there you are. And thank you for everything that you do, Dr. Garcia.
You can't leave yet. Let's give our colega here, Pernur. My goodness, I got so distracted, I thought I was like at a university conference professional lecture. I was like, yeah, yes, we need to do that. Congratulations to Pernur. Folks who are joining us, I see you make your way safely. There's plenty of open seats. I just want to, as always, like I want to jump right into it, but I have to begin by acknowledging that our colleagues that spoke before, so Linda and John and Sholen and Pernur, exemplified why it is that we need this kind of day. They exemplified why it is that we deserve to come together as a community, as a teaching community, an educational community, so that we can, in fact, learn from one another. We can, in fact, share our expertise. We can, in fact, celebrate one another's accomplishment and work and engage in that very uncomfortable space of critical thought. So I'm so grateful, because any teacher knows that when someone provides the opportunity to kind of set the conditions for learning, I am so grateful for the way you have done that for us this morning. Thank you. I want to, I know there's a lot of thank yous to give for the work that happened today. We have our PDA committee, both kind of current and new folks coming on board. We have the folks who spoke before me, so our colleagues in leadership positions and amazing teaching examples and recognitions. Certainly, we're not able to live stream for our colleagues who are not with us in person or have this amazing ability to use technology if it weren't for our media services team. So can we please give them a round of applause? And I love that I got to experience what it's like to drive to Petaluma campus first thing in the morning. So I want to thank Petaluma for hosting us and everyone for making your way here. At one point I looked over and Blair Lamb was like in the lane next to me and I was like, hey. Of course, the human resources staff and the department for all the behind the scenes work, for pulling the elements together. Those of you that are speaking today, I just keep thinking, like, I wish I could go to all of the workshops. So if you haven't had a chance to streamline or look at where you're going, you're gonna have plenty to choose from. We have some amazing presentations ahead. I want to acknowledge that we have Trustee Fishman joining us, an avid supporter on behalf of the Board of Trustees. And I do notice and recognize that you always come to the Santa Rosa campus as well, so thank you. I do want to acknowledge, I'm doing all this thank you beforehand because I want to just get into having a conversation with y'all. But I do want to acknowledge and thank the leadership team, because as much as what I'm going to put in front of here to kind of guide my thinking, I didn't do that on my own. And so I do want to acknowledge and recognize the work from the cabinet, which I think they're sitting in this area right here. Just thank you so much for your support, for the ways in which you provided information, and challenged me to take on the bigger questions. All right, let's get started. Okay, and I'm gonna move around, so. One of the things that may evolve is how we teach. What might evolve or change is who students are, or what society is putting before us, what they're experiencing. But what does not change without collective effort, without a level of collaboration, is how we identify our mission, vision, and values. And so this is something that I know we talk about and we say, well, what is our mission and what is our vision and what do we stand for? What are we about? We have done the collective work. Whether you were here when these were revised or not as important, because when we said yes to being part of this academic community, we said yes to all this. That's what I tell my wife when I do something. I'm like, you said yes to all this when you married me. So I'm putting this in front as an anchor because I think in times when it's easy to feel like you might be chasing whatever the new fad is, you know, as an educator, we have to be relentlessly focused on our purpose and what that means. And so, I broke it. There we go. Whew, okay. And we have to know who our students are. So Pernur set it up beautifully to say, well, what is the experience that students are having? And I want to say that there was one weekend where we were both on campus, and I think it was for the Expanding Your Horizons. It was, right, the STEM camp for young women, and Pernur was there, and I look in the audience, and I was like, wait a minute, I thought she taught English. You know, I thought you were there to teach, and she was there with her daughter. And I was there with my daughter. And I realized, look, on the weekends, we're just trying to be present to our children and give them access to things that maybe we did not experience in our educational journey. So I want to share a little bit about what happened last year. So in spring 2024, these were the demographics of our student population. And Pernur started to share some of that already. I'm going to play with my little cat toy laser here. So in spring of 24, we had just over 21,000 students, and those 21,000 students enrolled in almost 54,000 courses. 30% first generation, right? So we continue to have a community where we're paving the way, and 73% part-time students. The institutions of higher education are often designed with who in mind? Full-time students. Our student population is predominantly part-time, right? So they have figured out a way to include us as part of their journey. We also have a very obvious population of students. So Latinx, Latino, Latina, Latine, Latinx students now officially are the largest student population that we have at Santa Rosa Junior College. Followed by our white students, and then what you're not gonna hear me say is this. A lot of the times we say, oh, well, these percentages, but the N is small. It does not matter. One student is one student, right? So with that, here's the reality of the community in which we serve. And you may not see this racial or ethnic demographic in your classroom, right? You might say, oh, it's incredibly diverse, that's fabulous. But there are some of our classes where this pattern of engagement and enrollment is just a little bit more obvious. I promise you don't have double vision here. These are just very close numbers. I kept thinking that I need to get yet another prescription. So here is the trajectory from 1819, which a lot of us like to call the pre-pandemic, but we were still coming out of fires year. But you can see our enrollment in terms of unduplicated head count. So the orange line is our adult education. A green line is non-credit, lifelong learners. I have no idea where the credit line went. Apparently we didn't teach any credit courses that year. I'll come back to that. Here we go. In our 6-year trend, right, you can see the orange line is our total number of students, the blue line are credit students. So we definitely have experienced, like much of higher education, a little bit of a dip, and then we're in that phase of, we're still in enrollment recovery. We're still trying to ensure and let the community know that we are here to be part of their career and academic journey and lifelong learning. When we look at it from a 3-year perspective, and so this one we're just looking fall 21 to spring 24, it starts to even out a little bit more, but yet, you know, our full-time, here's our full-time population, our part-time population. Here's the ethnicity proportions for full-time students. So we have, again, does not matter when I say the N is small, one student is one student, but we need to know where we are here. So in this case, the Hispanic, Latino, Latinx we're showing here, white students, and then we have our other ethnic kind of racial groups. Multi-ethnic is a racial and ethnic demographic where we're starting to get more numbers as students are naming the intersectionality of their identities, as they are naming, for example, if you are part of what's considered the Asian American Pacific Islander, that you are not a monolith, right? So we're gonna even see in some of our data how we're separating out, not separating out, but highlighting those notions. So, again, I'm just presenting data in front of you, and I'm asking you to ask the kind of yourself the critical question, what does this mean for me in the classroom? What does this mean for me when I'm working with students? What does this mean for me as part of this community? And we have similar demographics for part-time students. I'm gonna come to my notes though, because what I wanna highlight here, I want to make sure that I'm ready for you all on this next one. Yes, okay. We look at course enrollments. And again, I'm just different ways, and I'm so grateful for our team in institutional effectiveness research and planning for pulling this together. This looks like such a simple graph, but let me tell you, I must have had like 8 Excel spreadsheets with multiple tabs. So I'm grateful for the work that the team does to make this digestible enough for us. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit more on this slide, because here is where I think, in terms of the work that we do, whether you are in the classroom or not, we are all part of a student being successful. And so again, part-time, full-time, all students. We have a 20% gap in course completion between full-time students and part-time students. Is this new for anyone? Is this new data for you? Some no, some yes. The part that I want to highlight, though, is that's just talking in terms of enrollment classification. Let me share a little bit when we disaggregate the data. And the only reason I'm not presenting it in a slide is because I was not skilled enough to make it readable for you all. So, full-time course completion by ethnicity, our white students complete at 93%. Latinx students at 88%. Native Pacific Islanders at 86, Black African American at 84. We've got some really strong completion rates for full-time students. And so one of the things that I keep thinking is, as a student progresses, and I know that Blair Lamb's done work with the Guided Pathways group providing data, as a student progresses in enrollment, even if they start full-time, as the time continues, they start to evolve into part-time status. And so one of the questions I was asking myself was, okay, well, if a student has figured out how to start full-time with us, that means they have figured out their life situation, their work situation, maybe their dependent care situation, they've figured it out enough to start full-time, then there's this piece of me that says, well, what are we doing to help support them to remain in that status if that's what they want? I don't have an answer, but I'm asking myself the question. And I believe that if we ask ourselves that question, we're each going to come up with a different perspective because of where we sit in this organization. For part-time course completion by ethnicity, our strongest completers in part-time are our Filipino students at 77%, followed by our Asian American broader population, white students at 75%, Latinx at 67%. So again, earlier we saw that Latinx students, and I know I'm using Latinx interchangeably. I just am. But we have to ask the question, right? So if our largest student population is Latinx students, and they are predominantly part-time, yet they are the ones that are almost 10% not completing, all of those start to compound, right? And all of a sudden we start to see, that's why we have these consistent gaps. And again, I'm just asking questions. I'm not saying anything yet. I'm gonna say some things in a bit. So our gap in part-time students, we have an 8% gap between white students and Latinx students, a 13% gap between white and African American Black students, and a 12% gap between white and Native American students. So I'll be providing this data later on once I work with Jeremy and the team to help a graph not make your eyes go crazy. So we say that we have to be data informed, right? Don't we say we have to know who our students are, we have to know what's going on, so that then we can understand where it is that we're going. And so what I'm gonna put here in front of you is the way that I've tried to make sense of how do we take the collective efforts of what we are doing, or what I think, or what we have decided, we've discussed must do to address those equitable gaps. And so, these are going to be what I've been calling the 4 priorities. I know that I shamelessly say that I'm a teacher at heart, and I need for things to be like, how can I hang on to this so that I can understand what to think about? And so we have IDEAA, so inclusion, diversity, equity, accessibility, anti-racism. and most recently really talking a lot about institutional and workplace culture initiatives. I'll spend some time on that. I'll spend some time on all of them. Student success, and I'm leading with student success because success is everything from were they able to access the application and actually enroll and then get to the class and finish each semester, right? So it's growth, it's recovery, but make no mistake, it's about student success. Fiscal sustainability. We are going to be entering some, I don't want to say challenging times or lean times, because I don't want it to be dire. We are going to be entering a time where we have to be incredibly intentional about how we allocate our resources. And we have to be able to use information to guide how we allocate those resources. And institutional effectiveness. We got a plan. So let me start with IDEAA. As I was listening to our speakers before, so John Stover opened us up and was addressing issues of culture, community, creating a space where the diversity of ideas and thoughts and opinions can have a place, right, to come together. We heard from Linda J. talking about how Classified Senate is really looking at actively figuring out and engaging in things that allow people to feel like they belong and they're cared for in this community. Sholin and Pranur were highlighting from an educational perspective what it means as a faculty member to enter into these spaces about how we teach or engage with students, or engage with one another as colleagues. And Pranur just about threw the gauntlet down and said, institutions, be better. That was my big takeaway, right? And so all of that takes an incredible amount of work, and it takes a level of commitment, relentless commitment. So this is not an exhaustive list, but I want to share, these were things that as a college, as a district, were taking place throughout last academic year. I met many of you for the first time during my listening sessions throughout the district. We heard earlier about how Pranur is now the faculty coordinator for cultivating an ecosystem of belonging. Let me clarify here, because sometimes we start to smash everything together. Cultivating an ecosystem of belonging was an effort between the human resources team and a collection of folks that said, what are we going to do to retain BIPOC faculty and classified professionals? So that's where that stemmed from. This is an EEO grant. It came from the Chancellor's office. It was funded in spring 23, 22. I feel like I don't even know what day of the week it is, but it was before last academic year. There's the work of Courageous Leaders Academy. How many of you have been participants in Courageous Leaders Academy? Make some noise, look at the hands around there, right? We have been a Hispanic serving institution, and this past year have been part of a participatory action research with Dr. Gina Garcia at UC Berkeley and our colleagues down at Fullerton College who are engaging on, so if we say we're Hispanic serving, what does that mean? What does that look like? And how is that inclusive of you really are serving all students? Right, because we set up these false dichotomies or narratives that if you are supporting Hispanic, Latinx students, then you must not be supporting others. That is not true. We had forums on IDEAA. We have a team that's going to participate with the International ADES Summit in Ghana. The Board of Trustees engaged in an EEO training last semester. We administered the National Assessment of Collegiate Campus Climate. And we formed the IDEA task force. So all of this was work that was happening. And let me just give an example of how learning continues to happen. So lot of when we can get it wrong when we don't mean to. And so this is me kind of saying we have to own up to it. In the work with this, you received emails and invitations that said, we want to hear from you, please fill out this survey. Within the first week, Jeremy and I, Dr. Smotherman and I, were addressing the fact that some of our colleagues were writing and saying, you are not using my correct name. So then we had to go and say, well, what is it about our processes? What is it about our processes that wasn't capturing a colleague's preferred name? Right? And so in these email reminders that are supposed to be like, oh, we know you're busy, fill this out, we have someone getting microaggressed in their email inbox, reminded that an institution is not acknowledging their preferred name. That was painful for me. We had a lot of conversations to go back to, is it a IT thing? Did we not check a box? What is it that was on our end the issue? We are not perfect, right? But we have to take these moments of when we get it wrong to then do the work to get it right. And I hope that if one of the things comes loud and clear is I will not have us shy away from the work that we need to do. It will be uncomfortable at times, but man, it's gonna be beautiful. I really do believe that. So the establishment of the IDEA task force was because the question came about, where does the conversation around the direction that our district is going to take around IDEA initiatives? And what we have are a lot of pockets of groups that are doing good work because they care about students, because they care about the community. But then you realize, well, that group, well, are they part of the governance system? Is that a contractually bargained space? Is it just departmental, right? And so you get folks who get frustrated, like we've been working doing this, and why isn't the district doing anything about it? So the College Council, and after listening to a lot of folks, we said, okay, we need to talk about what does a structure look like in our district to take on very directly what our IDEA work is gonna be. So this is gonna begin this academic year. We're gonna meet on Fridays. It's gonna start once a month, but I have a hunch that the group is gonna realize that that may not be enough, and we're gonna have to figure it out. Fostering open dialogue and community engagement. So at the end of last spring, going into the summer, our institutional culture was put out in public display in a very public way with our local media. And with that, it called for us to ask, okay, what is it about our district? What is it about our policies, our processes, our procedures that have led to some of our colleagues saying, I don't feel seen, I don't feel heard, and I don't trust that this process has my interest at heart. I don't know about each of you, but that was incredibly hard to recognize that. And the responsibility of we have to address it became very loud and clear. I've said jokingly, but I don't mean it jokingly, and I don't mean this facetiously. This summer was probably one of the hardest working summers that I've had in my entire career in higher education. And it wasn't because I had to fill out paperwork. It was because we had to re-engage in building relationships with people and try to understand and hear and try to think what is a way in which we can learn and hear confronting the brutal facts about how some of our colleagues feel in this district. And so that led to setting up a space where we have these open dialogue, community engagement. And so I'm gonna talk about that in greater detail in a moment, because I wanna give it the time it deserves, and also what are the operational things we need to move on. So I realized that I started to go on my little rant a little too soon here. This is just capturing what the IDEA task force is gonna do. The main takeaway for you is that you should be receiving a monthly communication from your colleagues about what is happening. They're gonna be reviewing data. So right here, the NAC survey, findings from the open dialogue, the individual listening sessions, and external resources from professional experts. We're creating the time for folks to engage in critical thought around this. The individual listening sessions, I want to clarify kind of an action that I think you should know that the district has taken. So at the beginning of the summer, sent out invitation to all faculty, classified professionals, STNC student employees who are part of the agriculture, natural resources, and Schoen Farm. Those individual meetings include myself, Dr. Robert Holcomb as the Vice President of Academic Affairs, and our Interim Vice President of Human Resources, Teresa Richmond. We scheduled time, and we asked 2 questions, 2 prompts. 1, we'd appreciate hearing what your experience has been in this department or this division or this site. And then 2nd, what do you think it's going to take to rebuild trust, to contribute to improving our institutional and workplace culture? Schoen Farm, we're doing those individual listening sessions because we're addressing head on the culture that led to some folks feeling like they were not being heard, or processes were not clear, they weren't getting the communication they needed. This is what doing the work looks like, and listening to it. So folks might say, oh, well, what's another listening session? I can't, what can you do with that? Because of these listening sessions, we've now started to move on some operational assessment moves, especially for those departments. This group is also, we've already started some preliminary giving the findings back to the leadership team, so working with faculty, department chair, farm operations, the leadership team, saying, okay, so of what we're learning, what do we need to put into motion now? So that is very specific to those departments. So those of you that are not in those departments, you might say, well, what's happening? Nothing's happening. You might believe that, but what I'm saying is we're working within the context of the folks that are in those areas. We are also going to have facilitated discussions throughout the rest of the district. So this is where you'll be getting an invitation. I think we were trying to for later today. We're solidifying dates. It's going to happen across the district. It has an external facilitator, similar prompts to address, because I realize, the leadership team realizes, that we have work to do to rebuild trust in some of the district operations. That means that I need to hear from you. Both the what has not worked well, the what has, where we need to go. So I invite you to engage with this. We're trying to offer enough opportunities for every person to at least have one point of interaction. The findings of these aggregates are going to go to the IDEA task force, and I've also committed to sharing it with your constituency group leaders. So that's been a big part of the work this past summer. So we had unions, senates, coming together to say, here's what the district is doing. How can we support you in what you are doing? If you need more discussion around this, you want to talk about this, you're still not sure, I would recommend that you talk to your component supervisor, or if you want to hang out with me at lunch, I'm happy to sit with you. This is nothing in hiding, nothing in secret. We have work to do, and this is doing it. This is working through it. Let's see. Felt like I wanted to say one more thing on that slide, but now I can't remember. It'll come back to me. Okay. So that's the kind of the bigger learning. Here are some critical pieces in terms of operational assessment. So I mentioned having conversations with our constituency group leaders. So the district leadership team met with the leadership team of Academic Senate, AFA, Classified Senate, SEIU, and invited SGA. We had 2 gatherings over the summer. Each was about an hour and a half or 2 hours long. I think there was a lot of discussion. There was a lot of, opportunity for hearing what needs to be done. And I think towards the end, I feel really confident that we were getting to a place of what is our collective work in this. So I feel good about that, because that means that when we show up to the table and we have those discussions, that means that we're engaged and we're willing to find a solution. And so I applaud my colleagues for being in that space with us. We identified 36 board policies that we believe and see as having a direct impact to influence our institutional and workplace culture. That's in addition to the other ones that we have to update anyway. So this year, and I really want to commend my colleagues, but Zara Sonkenar is, as the executive officer in the president's office and the Board of Trustees, helps you make sure that we don't go to board policy revision jail. That's my shortcut language. That we're getting it right, that we are engaging in the process through College Council, that we're finding input, that we're hearing from you. So I want to invite you to make sure that if it's with your senates, classified senate, academic senate, in your department meetings, if you're a professional expert in the particular policy, get engaged and get involved, or at least know that this work is happening. And these policies range on everything from hiring to our use of district communication modalities, to so many. So I'm trying to think what all of those would be. But these are the ways in which we influence systemic change, because the board policy is what grounds how it is that we're supposed to move forward with administrative procedures. We are in the middle of human resources leadership recruitment, so both for the director of human resources and the vice president of human resources. And here's where I will show how I believe listening sessions work. It was after 13 listening sessions that I became aware that I needed to stop the search for the vice president of human resources, because I had to learn more about what was needed before going out and recruiting a person. So I'm sharing that in front of you. Like that, those listening sessions do lead to action. That led to an intentional stopping of a hiring because we needed to learn more about the work that needs to be done. Our director of HR in the recruitment, in the job description, we've revised it so that that person can be a lead support for employee relations. Because what I'm hearing is, look, yeah, we don't all get along, we sometimes have issues, but not everything needs to go to a formal grievance process. And so where do we get the support for someone to help us work through informal conflicts? The HR department has done a lot of work in looking at process and function evaluation. So the automation of things, we still have some practices that are in paper format. And during the constituency lead, I learned that I think we still even do a triplicate in one of our processes. I'm still trying to figure out why and where. Not conducive to efficiency, but I need to learn the why, because maybe there's a purpose for it that I just don't know yet. We're hearing and we're working on clear reporting mechanisms for complaints. I already addressed the informal and formal. So this we have to get right. And so let me share. We're going to have to be clear about here's the process for what the current grievance process is, while we're also working to revise it, because it's imperfect. It's not as human-centered as we want it to be, I believe, as a community. We have employee training programs, so there's the mandatory ones that are state or federal, so you think like sexual harassment or Title IX in some cases. But then we also want to talk about, how do we have effective communication with one another? How do we provide space for critical feedback in a way to hear it? The leadership team is embarking on a year-long professional development effort, both technical and leadership, and we are working on establishing our leadership standards of excellence, which we are going to communicate to the community, to you all, where we say, we believe this district deserves to have a high-functioning, collaborative team full of integrity, where you can trust us, and where we can work together. I'm shortcutting a lot of stuff because we're still doing the work, but we are going to develop our leadership standards of excellence. We're going to share that with you all, because that is our promise and commitment as a leadership team. You deserve to know that you have folks that are committed to your success as faculty, as classified professionals in our community. And then lastly, the ongoing work of shared governance. Last year, a lot of really great progress was made, surveys and college council. This year, hoping that we will land on really being able to identify the governance groups that help us to achieve the work that we need to do, and those that maybe were useful during a point in time, but maybe not this point in time. But that is a decision and a process that we have to have openly, so nothing is happening behind closed doors. Okay. Second, student success, enrollment, recovery, and growth. You've heard a lot before about this strategic enrollment management plan. It's a 5-year plan, 2023 to 2027. Thank you. Kate Blackwell is the Employee of the Month. Kate, I know you're probably, there you are in the room. So let's celebrate Kate, Employee of the Month. I promise there's a connection that I'm embarrassing you for. So when I had the chance to meet with her, we were talking about, why it is that we do this work, how we evolve, doing it while also trying to be parents to teenagers who think that we must be the biggest idiots in the world, right? So we're talking about this. But she said something that really resonated, and I think with me, and I think will resonate with a lot of you, and that's, we are a part of this big puzzle. We're all puzzle pieces, and a big element is figuring out where you connect with another person, with another entity. And so as I was looking at these names, I'm like, yeah, these are the puzzle pieces that we see. But behind each one of these, our colleagues, is a whole team of other pieces that make it possible for them to show up in that space. And so I appreciated the visual, and I wanted to share that. And know that if your name is not on here, that does not mean that you are not a part of this effort, right? The SEMP, Strategic Enrollment Management Plan, has been working through 7 key strategies. My favorite as an educator is continuous improvement. If we learn something new, how do we adapt? I'm gonna highlight enrollment recovery and growth, and outreach and engagement. So this is the work that our colleagues set forth. They said, here is our goal in these areas, right? So those are the categories right there. Here is our goal, and then here is what we have achieved. So we've definitely seen some gains in dual enrollment. I want to thank our colleagues who have been working hard to answer or to listen to the question with our K through 12 partners about what it is that their high school students need in a career pathway or educational and academic pathway. We have some gains in work experience, little bit of a dip in lifelong learning, and I'm just pointing that out. I think we're figuring things out. Our colleagues who teach in this particular series, one of the biggest challenges in this is supporting our lifelong learners through CCC Apply. That is just a very real element, whether it's language or technology or access. That is a real component that we need to work on, and our team is working. I'm seeing you nod your head. I know you work so hard to help them through those applications. We should all feel really proud that we are one of the few colleges that's doing some serious gain in supporting previously justice impacted students. So this, I think we all should feel proud, but I'm especially grateful for our colleagues who've been leading the work in that effort. And I would say calling us as a district to walk the talk about these programs. There's no data here because we're not in this. This is where I'll kind of connect some things. I think, John, you were alluding to online education expertise and what that means. So we don't have data components on here because we're not part of that consortium. When you're a teaching college, then you get access to understanding how we connect to that. So I don't know if that's going to be a NA forever or not. We got to do the work. And then growth in other areas. Our big goal is we are funded at a level for students for which we don't yet have, but used to have. And the SEMP has really outlined and projecting some growth in these areas. So one of the bigger areas is around ISAs. Another one is dual enrollment, CDCP, along with the work that we do, right? Providing a quality education contributes to this, because if students have a successful semester, the likelihood that they'll come back the next semester is higher. I'm gonna just highlight on this one, some efforts around it is how do we follow up with students who applied but are not yet enrolled? And is that something on us, or is that student just ran out of time? So I'm grateful for the thinking around that. We've heard a little bit about support guides for students, but also how to share that with faculty. So if you want to post that on your Canvas shell or share it with students, you can. So again, you don't have to be the expert, but if you have the information for students to know where to go. On completion, there was an element, guided pathways. That group has been working very hard, and look right here. They are relentlessly committed to codifying guided pathways at SRJC for part-time students. So I'm grateful for the leadership and the work that you all have done, and that's a collaborative effort as well. And then transfer. Here's this other piece. There's a lot of work that's underway, and so some of that's going to be governance 10+1. Some of it's going to be operational. Bottom line is, how do we just make it easier for students to understand if they want to transfer what that looks like? So I start with those because fiscal sustainability is not just about the dollars and cents, right? It's not about how do you cut your budgets or how do you make it up. It's about how do we keep the students that showed up and want to be here with us, how do we keep them all the way through persistence and on to completion? And so our fiscal sustainability is grounded on the fact that students will have a quality experience because they will keep coming. Kate Jolly and the team in administrative services and business office, but Kate has provided an immense amount of leadership to our district in helping us get to the point to understand, and this really happens through governance, planning, and budget. Is it council or committee? I always forget. Council, thank you, PBC. And so in 1819, the student-centered funding formula, which for those of you that don't know, that's how our apportionment or how we get funded. It moves from traditional FTES funding, or what we used to call butts and seats at census, to including student equity and completion outcomes, right? The structure is this: 70% of our allocation is enrollment, 20% is supplemental metrics, which includes service of Pell eligible students as low income or first generation college students, and then success metrics, how they're completing in particular areas. Hold on, before I go to that slide. Well, too late, can't go back. So, sorry, I realized that was an abrupt shift. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Thanks for the assist. PBC and your colleagues who represent you on PBC, don't be shy to attend those meetings if you want, or to ask your colleagues, because you have a representative who sits at that table who's getting this information to break it down. Because this is like if you could talk like the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more that goes into it. And we don't all need to be experts on this, but we need to be well versed in it to understand our role and connection. So here's what we need to know. This academic year, as Kate will highly describe, this is our opportunity to set the new floor. How we do this year, this academic year, 24-25, in terms of enrollment and the supplemental metrics and the student success metrics can help us shorten that gap that we have where we're being funded for 5,000 plus FTES more than we have. Any major gains we can make this year, that becomes our new floor. So maybe next year, man, I would love it to be like, we have no gap. We did it this year. You know, even if we could get 500, 1,000, this is the opportunity for the new floor. So here are the things, the realities that come with this new funding formula. Until we reach the level of student engagement enrollment for which we are funded, our district is not going to be eligible for COLA, for ongoing COLA. We are anticipating a loss of $5.3 million each year, because that's the difference in how much we are being funded. And over 3 years, that becomes 15.9, right? So keeping that in mind. The work that Kate has done previously around our fiscal reserves has allowed us to not only meet what the policy says we need to do, but we have also exceeded that, and that's going to help us over the next couple years. So those of you that have seen, like, why do we have such a big reserve balance? It was because we had a colleague who in her area of expertise saw that we were going to be in a position of need, and this is how we are going to weather and go through it and not have to engage in layoffs of any sort. And our colleague Kate and the team of business services really deserves a lot of credit and a round of applause, because this was multiple years in the making. increase in costs that we have, the way that we're looking at it, we have to look at a corresponding reduction. And while we are not ready yet, we're working towards being able to identify what our resource allocation model is. So the work that we're doing in PRPPs and the annual planning is informing a process. They're not just activities for the sake of doing them, which is why the work that we're doing coming up for the strategic plan and the work that we've been doing for accreditation is all a part of planning. We have to know where it is we're trying to go. Again, I keep thinking of like, where do I want, when in the classroom, when I was in the classroom, like where is it that I need students to be at the end of a particular term, and how am I scaffolding the approach for them to get that? That is, in a nutshell for me, how I view institutional effectiveness. It has that critical of a role in what we do. So these timelines, many of you know about it, but for our new colleagues, you're gonna get this presentation so you can go into more depth, but it's just showing kind of our timeline. We are right here. We have a follow-up report, and that follow-up report, we get to tell the story of the culmination of work, including what happened yesterday at DDAD. So for faculty departments, please give yourselves a round of applause, because however imperfect or hard those conversations, that's us doing the work. So thank you for that. So the strategic plan, phase one, happened in 22-23, and that's where the mission, vision, values, goals, the initiatives were all outlined. Now in 24-25, we get to say, well, what are we gonna do about it? So we have these goals. We said we're gonna area of academic quality, student success and support, responsiveness to our community. These are all the strategic initiatives, campus, climate, and culture. And underneath them, 2 identified goals. This year, the question is, what do we do? I'm just gonna take this one because it's closest to me. What are we gonna do to formalize a campus climate that is culturally aware and prioritizes efforts in support of inclusion, diversity, equity, anti-racism, and accessibility? We cannot do this action part without each and every one of you. And so that's the work that's happening this year. So in September, this is a recommendation that's gonna go to PBC, is to look at the overview of the planning process and structure. So Dr. Jeremy Smotherman, who leads that particular area, will be leading this effort in collaboration with the work that has been done previous. So if you were a part of the District Education Plan Committee Group, it's because of your work that we've been able to rethink, reimagine how we could engage broader planning. And for our trustees, I now see that Trustee Battenfeld, thank you. I know you snuck in there a while ago. The end of that process results in the Board of Trustees approving our strategic plan, because now that says this is our guide, this is our roadmap. This is where we're all going. So again, the 4 institutional priorities. A lot more detail in this. I think that, this next slide for me. Okay. So I'm putting this in front of you because I think it's important for you to know what are some of the things or the elements that inform my perspective as the superintendent president. I think that for the past year, I have not been shy to share what it is that I believe our educational purposes. You were quoting, Perner was quoting Frary and Dr. Jeff Duncan Andrade, who was actually on my dissertation committee and made me read way too much. But Toni Morrison in the early 1970s, in an address that she was giving to statewide educators, shared this quote. And this has really stuck with me and has informed, because one of the things about institutionalized discrimination, and so here it says racism, because she was being very clear and unapologetic that institutionalized racism is the driver of all oppression, forms of oppression. So that you can switch to oppression if you want. But what she was saying is the status quo, the power structure, wants to keep us distracted. Because if we are distracted, we don't stay on the path of the good, hard work that needs to happen to achieve equitable outcomes for students. And that distraction can come in all kinds of ways. It can come in quiet moments, in a one-on-one conversation with someone. It could happen very publicly, whatever it is. But I will tell you, and this is my commitment for this year, is I believe that you all deserve to have a superintendent president who is not going to get distracted, who is going to say, if we are about this work, then we have to do this work. It's not going to be pretty. I know you all won't like maybe a lot of the things that I will say or do or be in communication, but I will be honest with you about what it means to engage. And so this reminds me so much of how institutionalized oppression wants you justifying over and over and over again why you're doing something, why you have to explain something. The entire eugenics movement had an entire community of folks saying that, the size of their head does not actually mean anything about intellectual intelligence, or the ways in which erasure happens for multilingual folks, right? So I don't mean to reduce this, but in the interest of time, I will tell you, if anyone wants to have a walk or a talk, or you want to tell me I disagree with this slide, I welcome it. But I need for you to know, I want us, I want us to be so focused on our purpose with students that we are willing to not get distracted by the things that just, the shiny new object, the shiny new thing. We know the work that we need to do, and we know that we need to do it together. Because our students are really our mission and our purpose. Right? At the end of this day, on Monday, right, you're going to engage with new students. All day yesterday, I was seeing students walking around trying to find the buildings, trying to find where their classes are going to be. They're trying to show up prepared for you on Monday for services and programs. And I know that you all are doing the same, right? That's part of what this work is. And so amidst it all, right, amidst the noise, the challenges, oh my gosh, I have 3 new preps this semester, and I don't know, I just got this job. Please raise your hand if this is your very first year with us, because I know we have some new faculty, new colleagues. Please stand up, please stand up. Yes, 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 these are our new colleagues around the room, up above, right? Right, welcome, welcome. Right, and so we're so glad you said yes to joining on this wonderful ride with us. Now they're like, look, too late, I already signed that contract. But I love students, and I love it when students know that their life experience, that their educational and career dreams are actually something that we can partner with them on. And so with that, yesterday there was so much energy around Welcome Day, and I know we have another one tomorrow on both sites, and so, yeah, right? Lots going on to help people feel welcomed and included and belonging. But one of the things that I love about what it means to come together and work together is that, yes, we want to dismantle oppressive structures. Yes, we want to disrupt white supremacy. Yes, we want to break down barriers. We also want to celebrate and appreciate the ways in which we can come together. And so last year, we had an entire journey and a process of folks coming together and really looking at Roscoe, our mascot. And you might say, oh my gosh, Angélica, you just talked about how we have a $5.3 million gap and you're talking about Roscoe. Yes, because an educational experience is a whole experience. And the ways in which we unify around our institutional identity is not just in our programs and our classes, but it's about being a part of this JC family. It's about understanding where Roscoe came to be. So when I think it was in 1920, I might be getting this wrong, but I think it was in 1920 was when the first mascot was created and was identified as a bear cub, because when our founding mothers did the work to start Santa Rosa Junior College, it was because they wanted to have access to higher education, and we were seen as this transfer institution for UC Berkeley. So in some of the greatest, fashions of flattery, we said, okay, they're the bears, we're the bear cubs. For the first 20 years, the mascot had no name. And then it was another group of students that came together. And through that process, Roscoe became named. So Roscoe, R-O-S from Rosa, and C-O, co from college. So that's where Roscoe comes from. But before I share what I'm about to share, I want you to know that it's because of a colleague who dared to say, yes, we're hearing this. Yes, students want to be part of this. And so I'm going to embarrass you for a moment, Amy. So Amy right here from Communications Marketing Team has been a driving force to help us realize in the end what students absolutely loved yesterday. So we're going to give our colleague Amy a round of applause. And because she is but a puzzle piece, also the marketing and communications team, when you think about the graphic design and the ways that we pull things together. So, here you go. I'm sorry it's jumpy, that's not you. So Roscoe is strong, a leader, encouraging. Joining Roscoe is Ruben Garcia, SGA president. Woo! Let's give it up for Roscoe. Also joining, in case you have not had a chance to meet our SGA president for this next academic, okay, Roscoe, I see you. You are the main attraction. Ruben Garcia. So I want to give you a moment because here we have faculty and classified professionals and administrators in person, online. We welcome you in your role, and here you go. What do you want to tell us?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the applause. I appreciate it, and thank you for the introduction. I'm really excited to get started this year. I've already had an amazing opportunity to meet so many people, and I'm looking forward to meeting even more. So thank you, everyone, and let's have a great year.
All right. So yesterday, Roscoe was revealed to the students, and there were 2 quotes. So we got stickers coming around. I need one so I can put it on my cafecito mug. Yeah, thank you. But here's what I love. There was a little boy who, I think he was like 7, Luciano, right? Was it Luciano? Yes, it was like that. And he goes, "I love you, Roscoe." Right? And then there was another student, a more adult student that said, "I'm your biggest fan, Roscoe." And in that moment, I was reminded of, sometimes we can take our work or ourselves too seriously. And there is something about just engaging around an energy that you're such a... Now you're breaking stuff. Engaging around an energy that brings us some joy, that brings us some levity, that is something where Roscoe can be this visual reminder, right, that brings us back to this love of being in a place where we can learn. And so with that, I'm so grateful that we have Roscoe in the many iterations. And just want to share, so the students yesterday got a lot more than what you all got in stickers. I'm just going to acknowledge that. So we have these hats, and what I love about it is that students here really love the idea that Roscoe can be encouraging and caring the way many of you are, but also strong and work hard. And so we're off to a great year. I want to thank you all for joining today and being a part of this session, this plenary. For those of you that are presenting in workshops today, thank you for helping us be better learners and be better educators. I'm so grateful to you. Have a wonderful day. Now it's time to make your way. Thank you, everybody.